G'day, welcome back to Dad vs Son and our continuing playthrough of Illusions of Glory by GMT. At the end of the last video we'd dribbled lots of information into your ears. Hopefully most of it was correct, and we'd finished the first action for each side, and we're back to the Allies having a bit of a go. So let's see what they get. And they've got an A, B or a C. So A again was their Russian reinforcements, which they can't use for an event. They've got a combat card, and they have another Russian reinforcements. Okay, so we have two 2-ops cards, one 3-ops card, and we have the two Russian reinforcement cards we can use for one Russian replacement, which would come in handy for this unit up here. Or the combat card has one Allied replacement and two Russian replacements. Okay. So, straight up, first thing is, do we wish to continue our attacks into this area? Do we wish to shorten our front here with the Russians, moving units from Kal to Rararuska and from Lutsk into Brody, and units from either Dubnov or Proskurov into Tarnopol, which would then free up units, if need be, to make their way up and help out in the northern approaches. The other thing we could do is use ops points to help to consolidate these Serbian units prior to the Austro-Hungarian attack. Right. Okay. So I'm going to use the no retreat card for its ops value of 3. And the first thing I'm going to do is to beef up some units. So I'm going to look at moving this unit. I'm going to look at moving this unit. And I am going to look at moving the units in Kal. So we'll do this one first, and I'm simply going to move them all into Rararuska, which gets rid of this horrible multi-gauge railway, gives me a normal railway in case I want to do an attack into Premysl. Okay. This small unit here, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, so it can help with the Second Serbian Army, and this one is going to go 1, 2 and do the same. And that's for ops points for the Allies, and we are back to the Central Powers, who have rolled a D-E. Okay, so they have a German reinforcements or Rennenkampf. And Rennenkampf cannot be played as a event if Stavka has been played, which it has not. Rennenkampf means that for the rest of this turn, activation of any space occupied by a Russian large combat unit costs +1 ops. So they're going to do that. So they're going to try and hamstring us a bit and make it damn sight harder for us to do anything. And this is a asterisk on this card, so it is now out of the game. So they have used, again, another event. Righto, back to the Allies. They have an AB, which are 2 Russian reinforcement cards. Yay! So they're both a 2 ops points, 1 Russian replacement. Okay. 2 ops... sorry, I've got to leave Rennenkampf out. So I remember that it's going to cost us twice as many ops points to move any large unit or do anything with a large unit. Okay. So I'm going to use the B card for Russian reinforcements for its 2 ops points. And I'm going to use it to simply move these units, because it's going to cost an extra ops point, into Brody. No, I'm not. Whoop, I'm going to use this on Dubno. No, I'm not. That'd be stupid. I'm going to use it on these units and move them to Tarnopol. And that cuts off this access. Then I can move one of these units in, and these sneaky buggers can't go up and take one of my fortress areas. Okay, so ops points for the Allies. Back to Central Powers, who have an AB. So they have their Guns of August, or they have their railroad troops, and they can play railroad troops now because they have played Oberost. So they get 1 war status point, taking the total to 4. And they can use this card for ops points, so they have 2 ops points. Okay. So they're going to do an attack with those units. And they are going to move these units. That's their 2 ops points. So again, what we're doing is consolidating the Austro-Hungarian line and trading. Oh, sorry, they can't go that way. They end up there, they go 1, 2 to there. Into the mountains, like that. So consolidating their line, shortening their lines of communication, and giving them some form of defensive bonus by being in the mountains. Okay, so then we have the attack down here against the Montenegrins here in Cetinje. The attack into Montenegro. Righto, so let's bring the table over again. Try and put it somewhere where we're not going to knock all our stuff over. And what we have for the Austro-Hungarians is we have 6 attack points. And they're going to attack into mountains. So it's a shift to the left and a step to the right. Do the time warp. And then we have the Montenegrins. Now they are a mountain infantry, so they get a +1 to their defense as well. Okay. And we have a -1 for the roadway to them. So we have the Montenegrins with a 2. Okay. Righto, so the Germans, or the Austro-Hungarians, rolled a 6, -1 is a 5, doing 4 damage. And the Allies rolled a 4, +1 is 5, doing 2 damage. So 2 damage on the Austro-Hungarians reduces 15 core, and 4 damage on the Montenegrins does 2, 4, and they're gone. And then 16 corps, it's undamaged, can move into Montenegro and take control of that for the Austro-Hungarians. Whereas 15 corps can't do anything because it was reduced. Dum, dum, dum. Okay. So we are... That was their third, which was another event. Righto. The Allies now have an AB again. So again, the Russian reinforcements card in the A slot. And we have a combat card for the B slot, which is any CP attack against a space containing an undestroyed Allied fort receives a -1 die roll modifier. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Russian reinforcements card. But what am I going to use it for? Either the 2 ops points or the 1 Russian replacement point is the thing. Okay. Okay. I'm going to use it for its ops points, and I'm going to use it for moving these units from Tarnopol, because it costs 2, and they are going to move into Lemberg, and now they have control of Tarnopol, and they also have control of Lemberg. Again, shortening the Russian front as well, like that. Okay. So that was for ops points for their 4th action. Righto, back to the Central Powers. And they have an AB, which is their Guns of August card or a combat card. So I think what they're going to play is they're going to play their Guns of August. So straight up, they get 2 war status points, taking the combined total up to 6. They can use this card for ops, which is 4. And for the rest of this turn, any Central Powers attack that includes a German LCU receives a +1 die modifier. And this card can be played because I've played the Drive on East Prussia card. Okay. So that card will stay there as well. 4 ops points for them. They're playing another event. Okay, so what do they want to do? Okay, so the first thing they're going to do is they're going to move the 16th Corps. They're going to move some of these units. And they are also going to move 15 Corps. Righto. So the first movement is 16 Corps going to What's-he there? And they will take control, straight up to here in Valjevo, which means that they've gone through there and taken control of that for Austria-Hungary. And then 15 Corps is going to come down to Montenegro and come over to here. Still in a mountainous hex, and this now allows them to put pressure on these areas as required. Okay, then these cavalry units here, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 to beef up Kremzel in case they end up with a double attack into there. And the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Teschen, so that they can help up in this area for the time being. Righto. Fifth action for the Allies is an event. Okay. Now I have no event. The only card I have is this card showing. So therefore I have to use it for its ops value, or I have to use it for the 1 Russian replacement point. If I use it for its ops value, I'll be able to move 1 stack or do 1 attack with 1 stack. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to use it for its ops value of 2, and I'm simply going to move these units from Dubno to Tarnopol, which then gives me a 2-pronged attack into Cernovitz if I wish to. So ops value again, and we go back to the Central Powers, who again have an AB, which gives them Landvar to the front. This will give them, if it's played for the event, will give them 1 victory point and allows 2 replacement points for Germans on the board to be played out straight away. So I could use 1 to reconstitute this unit and fix them up, but they have no other units at the moment on the board, and that other point would be wasted at this time. Or I can use it for 1 Austro-Hungarian and 2 German replacement points. And that is what I'm going to do. So we're going to use it for replacement points. Okay, so replacement points, and we have 2 German and 1 Austro-Hungarian. And we're back to the final action for the Allies. And they have an AB, which is a combat card, Putnik, or Royal Navy Blockade. The Putnik card is a 4 ops card, or I could, and any Allied attack or defence that includes a Serbian LCU receives a +2 die roll modifier, which would be really handy for any attack into here or into here at the moment. But it also could be used for its replacement points, which would give me 2 Allied and 3 Russian. And at the moment I have 1.5, 2 Russian points that need done, and that would give me back this small cavalry unit into my reserve box as well. Or I can do the Royal Navy Blockade card for either its event, which means that I would have 1 VP, so -1 VP, so that would help us bringing it down to 14. and we would have the Royal Navy blockade turned over, which means that the Central Powers cannot strategic reserve by sea, and German replacements cannot be converted into Turkish replacement points unless there's an uninterrupted supply line from Berlin to Constantinople. And it's going to be very difficult at the moment to cut any supply line through here down to Constantinople. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Putnik card for its replacement values. So 2 for Allied players and 3 for Russians. So we get the Allied RP for 2 and the Russian RP for 3. And that's the end of the Allies' turn. And the final action for the Central is a C, D, E. So their C card is a combat card worth 3 ops points, or 1 Hungarian and 1 German replacement point. This card can't be played as a combat card after summer 1915. So that still gives us tons of time to do it. D is a 2 ops point German reinforcement, so it'll either be 2 ops or 1 German replacement point. And E is a 4 ops close combat card, which could give us 2 Austria-Hungarian replacement points and 3 German. The trouble is, last turn the Germans played the replacements points, so they can't do that again. You can't back-to-back it. So we're looking at effectively 2 ops, 3 ops, or 4 ops. And what do we want to do? So I'd like to do this attack into here. We still need to do an attack on the Serbs, because we haven't done that yet. So that's 1 ops point I could use. I'd love to move this unit up into here. So that would give me 2 ops points that I need to use. What do I want to do for the last one is the question, and I don't really have an idea, so I'm going to use this German reinforcement card for its ops points. That gives me 2 ops points. So as we said, I'm going to move the small cavalry unit into Krakow, and I'm going to conduct an attack from Valjevo into Krakow. Oh, I've got no idea. Sorry. Into this Serbian block here. Okay. So we'll bring this over. Try not to knock anything over. So what we have for the Germans is 3, 6, 9 points of the Austro-Hungarians, 9 points of brutishness. But it's mountains, so they get a shift to the left, so it becomes down to a 6 to 7 points of brutishness. And the Serbs have 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that is that. Okie dokie. I do not have a combat card or anything to help with this attack. Righto. Their Oberos card for the Austro-Hungarians, however, says that any attack that includes a Austrian LCU receives a +1 die roll modifier. So let me just, a +1. And that's that. And do they have a combat card that can help? No. No, they all need either Russian or Germans and so forth. Okay, so the Austria-Hungarians have a +1 die roll modifier, and the poor old Serbs have 4. Yep. Okay, so the Germans have a 3, which becomes a 4. If I can find it. Okay. So their 4 becomes 4 damage. And the Serbs, a 3 becomes 3 damage. Okay. So the Serbs taking 3 damage to start with, they will take 1, 2, and then they will take 3. And 4. So that's their 4 damage done. Like that. And 3 damage to the Austria-Hungarians is simply 2, and that's the maximum they can take. So therefore it's 2 damage to 4 damage. I have to retreat at least 2 spaces. I can't retreat into here. I can't retreat into here. So I've got to come back this way through Nis down to Skopje. And the 16 Corps has been reduced and cannot advance. But these 2 units can advance into where the Serbian Second Army was, but that's as far as they can go. They have to halt after that. Must stop, advance, in, yes. So there we go. So now they've taken control of that area as well for the Austro-Hungarians, which means they have now isolated Belgrade. Righto. So their last one was for ops. So, I keep saying so a lot. I don't know why. So I'll try not to. Okay, that was stupid. Okay, so I've done it again. I apologise. I'm sorry. So the action phase is over. We now have the attrition phase. And basically what we need to do is check supply for units. And they must be able to trace supply back to their proper places. Nobody is out of supply. Belgrade is in supply because it's within a fort. Nobody is cutting these 2 units off from the rest of Serbia, so they're fine. Siege phase, we have no forts under siege at the moment. Nobody has taken anybody else's or tried to take anybody else's fort and succeeded. We have the war status phase. We check for automatic victory, but the victory points are where they are. It's still right in the middle of the 0 to 30 on 15. We check for armistice, but the combined war status hasn't reached the armistice, or vice versa yet. We check for war commitment levels, and we see that the CP player has reached the limited war level, but cannot increase their war level to limited war during the first turn. We check for national collapse, but as you can see, the national will for everybody is all the way up here, and demoralisation for nations is when they reach the 2 point. So we get to the rebellion revolution phase. So again, we check the national will, and it's fine. Like we said, Russian revolution, nothing happening, doesn't matter. So replacement phase, and we usually do replacements allies first, followed by the Central Powers. So first up we have two allies replacement points, which could be used for France, for Germany, for Greece, or whoever else that we get, or Italy, but none of them are in the game yet. And we weren't lucky enough to have our condition changed so that Allied replacement points could be made to Russian replacement points. So it was a waste. However, we have 3 Russian replacement points. It costs 1 point to fix up a large unit on the board. It takes 1 point for every 2 steps for SCUs on the board, so that is half and half, and they're now fixed. And then it also costs 1 RP for every small unit in the replaceable units box, and we have 1 Russian small cavalry unit here, so that's half a point. It goes back into the pile, and that is that. So we go to then Austria-Hungary. They have 1 replacement point. So looking at their northern area, they have nothing that needs replacements. Looking in their southern area into Serbia, they have 2 that they could use the point on. So they could either beef up 15 core, or they could beef up 16 core. And I think what we'll do is we'll beef 15, for the simple fact that this unit could come under attack if the second army comes up to here, or over to Skoda, and then they get them in a little bit of a pincer movement here, attacking him. This one cannot be touched at the moment, so he's safe. Righto, and then we have 2 German replacement points, and we're going to use 1 to fix up the unit in Breslau, and we're going to use the other point to reconstitute these replaceable units back up into our reserve box. So there they go, and that's it. So the next step is the strategy card phase. So we can discard combat cards if we wish out of our hand. The Allies do not have any combat cards showing on their board, so they can't do that. The Germans have 3. So what I'm going to do is roll a die for each one. On an odd number, the card stays. On an even number, the card will go. So we have an even number for the Tannenberg card, so it goes back into their Let's Shuffle You Up Later deck. Now we have von Francois, and we have an even for him, so again he goes back into the Let's Shuffle Up for Later deck. And then we have the Wireless Intercept card, which gets a 1, so it stays. Then we have the draw cards, and this is where we would then simply draw up to our card hand size, but we don't do it using Stuka Joe's wonderful setup. And then we have the reshuffle as required. Okay, so we'll take what's left of our deck and shuffle in the cards that can be shuffled back in. And that becomes our C deck anyway. And the same for the Allied player. And at the end of this turn, the only cards that are showing is the B card for the Allies, the Royal Naval Blockade, and the D card for the Central Powers, which is their Wireless Intercept card. Now, all these other cards that we kept open for the first turn are now discarded because they have an asterisk on them, and they will not come back to play. So one for the Allies, and these 3 cards, Oberost, Rennenkampf and Guns of August, for the Central Powers player. And that's the end of that. So what I'm going to do next, CP achieve their mandatory offensive, is I'm going to roll for the mandatory offensive for the next turn, because I always forget to do it. And we have a 3 for the Allies, which is British, French, which aren't in, so that's a nothing. And we have a 2 for the Central Powers, which means that Austria-Hungary must do something about the Serbians again this turn. And that's where we're up to. We are done. So thank you very much. That's the end of turn 1. I'll fix up the action markers, and then we'll be ready to come back in for turn 2, and we are at, I don't know. I can't really see the time because I'm a blind old man. But that's fine. I think we've got tons of time. There we are, 36 minutes. I was looking on the wrong part, as usual. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know where I've screwed up, or if you have an idea on how to improve this experience for you. Again, I'm sorry about the air conditioning noise, but there's not much I can do about it with the heat and the smoke that's around at the moment. So take care, and bye for now.